Welcome to Coffee with the Journalist, a podcast by One Pitch, featuring well-known journalists from the top US-based publications covering technology, lifestyle and culture, health, science, products and services, and more. The goal of our show is to uncover the real person behind the real stories you love to read. We discuss their beat and news coverage, what their inbox looks like, the types of pitches they like to receive, and more. On today's show, we're joined by David Jeans, a tech reporter for Forbes Magazine. He joined the publication in March of 2020. His previous experience includes covering WeWork, real estate tech startups, and commercial real estate for The Real Deal. David tells us more about how he responds to pitches, or lack thereof, where the best stories tend to come from, and how to catch his attention with an exclusive, one of his favorite books, and more. Let's hear more from David on today's episode.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with a Journalist, where we drink coffee and we talk to a journalist, and it's a lot of fun. In fact, I have coffee right now. David, you're sitting in Brooklyn. You got coffee too?
It's brewing.
It's brewing. Excellent. You're the first one, I think, that said the coffee is in the works. Most people either have it or they're like, no, it's too late in the day and I got to switch to wine or whatever else. So Way to go. You got it in the works. Well, you're currently at Forbes, as we just heard about, writing on all things enterprise. So we'll get a little bit into that. But the first thing I like to ask people is, what's in your inbox? How crazy is it with pitches?
You know, after last week and the election, my inbox activity actually dropped off like 75%, which was kind of remarkable.
Amazing
To see, you know, I wasn't getting pitches for like the latest technology in doggy doors. What wasn't coming through. Whereas then Monday, it looked like everyone had finished holding their breath, and there was just an onslaught of emails from, you know, every agency in the country.
Got it. Is that normal for you? Are you getting hundreds of pitches? How many hundreds a day would you say on a normal time?
Probably around 100.
Oh, okay. That's not as bad.
Yeah, it's not terrible. I mean, I don't reply to most of them, so maybe people sort of get the gist.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that works to my advantage. But you know, I always reply to a good pitch.
Okay, so then that must tell me that you're opening every email. Is that true?
I do. Yeah, I'm kind of like one of those crazy people. I mean, the thought of having 20,000 unread emails in my inbox is frightening.
I couldn't do that either.
It's like having a dirty bedroom or like, you know, not cleaning the kitchen.
Yeah. So then that also tells me you must get down to like inbox zero every couple days or so.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Oh, okay. So you're on the other side, but you kind of have two of the other sides that are hardcore, which is inbox zero and reads every pitch.
Yeah.
I think you are in your own category, actually, that I've ever heard of both of those. Because there's definitely the inbox zero people, but then there's not usually, at least from what I've been hearing of doing this for so long, you don't usually hear, and I read every pitch. I'm kind of impressed right now.
Well, it's not totally accurate to say you read every pitch. It's more like read the first sentence of every pitch.
Okay, that's still fair. But you open the email.
Yeah.
Dang. Wow. Okay. Well, what does constitute, in your mind, a good pitch?
So, I mean, a lot of the pitches that'll come through, especially if I know the PR person and we've got a bit of liaison or I can understand one another, you know, I'll give it a bit of extra weight. You know, it might even be a product announcement or something about a client that they're representing, and they'll sort of say, look, you know, we know you probably won't cover this, but like just so you know, this is what's happening. And like I always quite appreciate that, because sometimes if I look across my inbox over a week and I get 3 emails from different companies and they're all launching similar products or announcing similar news, you know, it might prompt me to think, well, hey, there's a trend here, or there's something going on that speaks to a broader issue, you know, that, you know, could warrant a potential story. You know, that's often what I'll say, but I'll often have my eye caught if starts off with an exclusive pitch, and, you know, where you have the exclusive, you know, jump on a funding round or a CEO leaving, or, you know, in one case I had a company give me the exclusive that they were shutting down.
Oh, you don't get that pitch often.
No, but so when I do get that pitch, yeah, I'm certainly interested.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so exclusive, you like something distinct, and also it sounds like you use this as a way to thread the needle in terms of themes, emerging things that you can maybe constitute a whole story around, which I've heard other people do as well, to just kind of have a pulse on what's happening in maybe a specific industry.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, one example recently, I did a story on a study about artificial intelligence, and they had said that the majority of companies that invest in AI don't reap the returns that they hope for.
Oh, this is your article saying only 10% of companies report significant financial returns. Wow, that's kind of crappy.
Yeah, well, the why that sort of struck a chord was because I had been seeing so many pitches come through with companies telling me that they had new AI or they developed new AI or they'd invested in new AI, and then had with all this sort of hype and sort of bluster around the word AI, I was like, what's going on here? And then when this study I learned about this study, it sort of put a lot of things in perspective. So that was good ingredients for a story.
And now with that, did the pitch come to you as the company who completed the study, or how did that kind of, and this gets into our next topic, which is like the making of a great story. How do stories like that one unfold for you? From a pitch, from a time you're sitting in the shower and you're like, oh, you know what, let me think about AI, or like, how do they come up?
Yeah, well, I mean, in that specific example, I've been pretty interested in better understanding how artificial intelligence, what its role is, but also how it's being sold and presented, and what its actual capabilities are compared to, what is the dream of what is going on. So I have been asking a lot of academics and venture capitalists and founders and people in the industry about sort of what the parameters were around their AI, and how they had sold it and how the marketing message around their AI had changed over time. And through speaking with dozens of people, because I was still sort of formulating a story that I was hoping to work on. Through speaking to a lot of people, some consultants had said, "Hey, actually, we are actually working on a study about this, and we're going to release it in coming weeks. So we'd like to sort of talk to you about it." And so that's how that came up. That was just me asking around a certain topic.
Okay. Kind of then finding what you need to find. Do you have, would you say, any percentage of actual articles that get done from an initial pitch? Maybe is it like 10%?
In terms of how many pitches do I get that I would actually write a story about?
Yeah. Or of all the stories you've done, let's say in the last 12 months, you're like, you know what, only 2 of them actually came from an email pitch. The rest I dug up. I called somebody, my colleague told me,
Yeah, I would like to think that it's probably like 5%.
5%. Okay. Few.
I mean, maybe I would like to think that, but maybe in some cases it's probably a little bit higher. But yeah, I do like to think that some of the best stories don't come from pitches, but sometimes pitches help to let you know what is happening in the industry, so then you can approach it with a journalistic angle rather than a company-focused angle. The other thing, though, that's different as well, obviously for bigger companies, when they come to us with pitches about product launches or like deals and stuff that they have done, we would obviously give a lot more weight to those pitches just because they apply and can be understood by a much wider audience.
So you're talking to your Microsofts and Amazons of the world, the Ubers, Google.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is your beat. Yep. Got it. Okay. Well, that gives us a little understanding then of what comprises how stories come about for you.
Today's interview will continue after this brief message brought to you by OnePitch. Are you curious to see the unique ways OnePitch helps PR professionals and marketers pitch journalists? Head to onepitch.co to learn about our new OnePitch score and see how easy it is to find the right journalist to pitch your news to. Sign up for your free account today. Now, back to today's episode.
I have a word association game. So I'm going to give you just a word and you tell me the first thing that comes into your mind.
Okay.
How about that? Usually it's fun. Let's see. Okay. Food.
Burgers.
That sounds good. Drink.
Seltzer.
Hobby.
Surfing.
5G.
Not here yet.
Microsoft.
Really big.
Melbourne.
Home. And smells good.
Wait a second. It smells good?
Yeah, it smells like eucalypts. You can just...
Really?
Yeah, it's a really cool thing. I only noticed it when I left Melbourne for like several years, and then I came home and I was like, wow, there's this smell about this city that I love.
Wow.
It's a weird sensory experience, but yeah, that's what happens.
Oh, that's kind of nice. I actually haven't been to Australia, although I've been many other places, but what a nice, calming smell to find. Oh, now I want to go.
My partner said that Australia is just like California, but 30 hours away.
Okay. Real estate,
WeWork,
Amazon,
Bezos,
funding.
too much of it,
Yeah, there is a lot of that. Journalism,
hard work.
pitch,
Please make it a good one.
inbox.
A chore.
Who looks at their inbox with joy, I wonder?
If it's a really good pitch,
Then you're excited for that. It's like exclusive. Yeah. Well, one other thing we like to ask on this, because usually journalists have the best scope on this, is are you reading anything you love right now? Book, digitally, Audible, whatever. Anything you love right now?
Yeah. I just actually put down a book. It was, I breezed through it because it was so good, but it was Blood and Oil.
Blood and Oil. Okay.
It's a profile biography of Mohammed bin Salman. It was done by two Wall Street Journal reporters and just sort of talks about his rise in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, yes.
I just thought it was fascinating and a good education on that region.
Yes. Ruthless Quest for Global Power. Ooh, another journalist authored book, of which there are increasingly more of those.
That's right.
Oh, and it also says here on one of the reviews, it's a fascinating and highly entertaining tale. Did you find it entertaining?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I get all my recommendations from this podcast. Okay, great.
Actually, I did put down another book. It was called, I believe it's called The White Tiger by Arvind. Let me just look up. I finished it about a month ago.
White Tiger.
It's called The White Tiger. It's by Aravind Adiga.
An Indian author.
Yeah, and it was about this. He's effectively a servant or a slave, and he becomes a master, and it's just an unbelievable sort of wacky tale on sort of Indian hierarchy and life. And I just thought it was it was. I think the book was written like a decade ago, but it was fascinating.
Yeah, it says published 2008.
Yeah.
Won some 40th Man Booker Prize. Those are two good ones. Thanks, David. This is where I get all my recommendations, by the way, this show. Okay. What do you think, transitioning to a different topic here, the future of journalism looks like?
Well, I started working at a newspaper, and I do hold some lust for the idea that they will stick around for, several more years to come. I mean, I remember when I started my career, everyone said that newspapers would be dead by 2020, and that still hasn't happened.
That's true.
That's one thing, but I do think that the last 4 years has also forced us as reporters to have to sort of justify what we do even more and try and sort of break through the noise of this new word called fake news, which is really unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no longer like a given that what we're writing is true in some people's minds. That I think just means that we have to find ways to reassert that is in fact the case. And it's going to be a big challenge. So I'd be interested to see how, the results of last week's election may change the narrative on that. But I do think that if anything, it sort of reemphasizes our role in sort of telling people what's happening in the world.
Does that agitate you, knowing that on top of everything else, and you're doing all these jobs now because there's so much pressure on a reporter, you're trying to tell stories, you're trying to keep democracy sewed together to some extent with the role that you play, and then on top of that, you got people, this is fake news. What's your approach to that? Well,
I mean, the approach to that is like in the past, people who we wrote critically about, they didn't dismiss us as fake news. They would say, it's inaccurate or false. And that would tend to be where it ended, right? Like you would include their response to the story and then they would say it's inaccurate or false or whatever. And then readers could make up their own minds whether the facts are being presented in a way that built a certain sort of case or not. Whereas now, an unbelievable amount of noise on Twitter and other social media where people can sort of try and discredit work in other ways, in a more sort of intense way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I don't think it's frustrating. I think it's just more tiring.
Yeah, and there's already a lot of things to be tired about. So, God, I can imagine. Okay, so from your answer, I would say you're a bit optimistic, a little bullish on journalism.
I think I'm always super optimistic about the future of the industry, but I do think that, again, I started working in a local newspaper, and then now I'm seeing like so many different publications spring up that cover more specific industries in different ways. And the way that we cover news is very different. Like, for example, in tech, we have the information, you have protocol, and then every tech desk of all the big publications that are all sort of fighting for the same sort of stories.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, we're seeing local newspapers die across the country. So I think that there will be some smart people who will come up with some solutions to sort of fill those information deserts, I think they're called. But I think that there's a lot of smart people in this industry, and they'll work out a way to continue.
I think it'll just continue to shift as it is. I know there's definitely a handful of startups too that are trying to crack the code on local news and how that could be still substantiated, and just the gap that needs to be filled when you have local news and knowing what's going on in your direct community. But these are hairy, big problems. But we're in it. We're here and we're in it. Well, the last part for us, David, is this fun Mad Lib part. Sometimes they're quite accurate. So I'm just going to give you the word, and then I'm going to fill it in, and then I'll read you back what shakes out. Does that sound good?
Okay.
It's going to be super simple. I walk you through it. Okay. First thing is just, what is a catchphrase? For example, Nike's is just do it.
Do you guys have Hungry Jacks over here? Is that a thing?
No, I don't know, but we'll put anything down. So do educate us.
Oh, Hungry Jacks is I think it's like the Australian version of Burger King. Their catchphrase is the burgers are better at Hungry Jacks. All
right, we're going to use that. What's a journalist scare phrase?
A scare phrase would be someone on Twitter being like, excuse me, this is not right.
Okay, Twitter user yelling. Okay, yelling correction. And then what about a positive or empowering journalism buzzword, would you say?
This is running in the mag.
Oh, okay, running in the mag. Excellent. How about a part of a pitch?
Exclusive.
Okay. And then what's another part of a pitch?
Don't share this widely.
Yes. And then how about an amount of time?
Give me the weekend.
All right. Do you have some thoughts on adjectives? We need a couple.
Adrenaline pumping.
Adrenaline pumping. Okay. That's a strong one. I love it. Okay. We need another one. Do you have another one?
I'm going to say tiring.
Tiring. Perfect. Okay. Great. Then what about just a topic? And we're almost done.
Tech.
And how about just a noun? Notepad. Great. And then a verb ending in ing.
Calling.
And then the last thing is just a verb, any verb.
I don't know, watering plants. I'm looking at plants.
Watering plants. Okay, here we go. Here it is. To me, tech journalism is the burgers are always better at Hungry Jack's. It consists of Twitter users yelling correction and running the magazine on the daily. If a pitch has a tiring exclusive, I will absolutely respond to it. However, if a pitch has a, don't share this widely phrase, you can expect no reply from me. If you give me the weekend and it goes by and you do not see an email back from me, you can just assume I am not adrenaline pumping about it. The best stories always have notepads and are usually about tech. And the best way to reach me is by calling me, but you can also water a plant next to me. There you go, David. See, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yes. Well, thank you for being on. My goodness, you're under deadline. You're closing the magazine. We didn't mention that on the show, but you are still here doing what you got to do on this podcast. I so appreciate it. And I hope you do get your story in the magazine, speaking of. And thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Coffee with the Journalist featuring David Jeans from Forbes Magazine. If you like our show, make sure to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. And if you have a moment, please leave us a review to share your thoughts about the show in today's episode. To learn more about the latest tools on OnePitch, head to our website at onepitch.co and see the unique ways we're helping public relations professionals pitch journalists more effectively. We'll be back next week with an all-new guest and even more insights about the journalist you want to learn more about. Until then, start great stories.